8. Cat 3406E. The Caterpillar 3406E is a favorite among old-school truckers and mechanics who appreciate an engine that can rack up miles like it's collecting stamps in a passport. Known for its electronic control system, a big deal at the time of its release, this engine helped pioneer a new era of precision fuel delivery and increased efficiency. The transition from purely mechanical to electronic injection gave Caterpillar a serious foothold in the evolving diesel world of the 1990s, and it changed how drivers thought about controlling power and performance. One of the reasons folks hail the 3406E as a champion is the robust design of its core. Caterpillar wasn't messing around. Heavy-duty blocks, strong cylinder heads, and a stout crankshaft turned this engine into a real warhorse. Maintaining a 14.6-liter displacement, it could deliver horsepower ratings generally ranging from the mid-300s up to around 550 horsepower, with torque figures often cresting above 1,800 pound-foot. That's no small feat, and you can imagine the grin on a driver's face when hauling everything from construction equipment to cross-country freight. Despite its popularity, the 3406E faced a bit of controversy when Caterpillar started dealing with increasingly strict emissions regulations in the early 2000s. Some argue that as Caterpillar tweaked designs to meet new standards, reliability became more complicated. Sensors and emissions components added new failure points. It was also around this time that rumors spread about which version, early or late model, was more bulletproof. The older 3406E variants, some say, were more straightforward to fix because they weren't stuffed with as many electronics, so an old-school mechanic could diagnose them by ear. On the flip side, those advanced electronics on later versions offered more precise control, which can mean better fuel efficiency in the right hands. The 3406E's longevity, when treated right with consistent maintenance and quality fluids, is legendary. Many owners report 500,000 miles with minimal downtime, and plenty of them go well beyond that threshold. It's not uncommon to see these engines with 1,000,000 miles on the clock, albeit with a well-managed overhaul or two. The key is to stay on top of servicing the fuel injectors and cylinder head, which can develop issues over time. Cost of maintenance is worth mentioning. Cat parts can be pricey, and specialized knowledge is sometimes required for repairs. This is where that age-old joke comes in. Cat stands for count another 1,000 every time you fix it. Jokes aside, if you budget properly, the 3406E can keep your rig out of the scrapyard for years. The sense of reliability it provides often justifies the expense, especially for folks who view their truck as a long-term investment. Another interesting note is that the 3406 series had a storied life not just in on-highway trucks, but also in industrial and marine applications. Ever wonder why some tugboat engines purr like they have got endless torque? A variant of the 3406 might be the secret. It's a testament to Caterpillar's design strategy that these engines have found success in such varied environments. The 3406E, for many, hits that sweet spot of old-school iron block durability with just enough modern tech to keep efficiency and performance high. If you want a conversation starter at the truck stop, saying you've got a 3406E under the hood is guaranteed to pull an appreciative nod from the old-timers and the young guns alike. 7. Cat 3408. Rolling in next is another Caterpillar legend, the 3408. If you thought the 3406E was hefty, wait till you meet this bigger, sometimes noisier sibling. The 3408 is a V8 diesel, which naturally stands out in a world largely dominated by inline sixes. With a displacement of around 18 liters, this beast has historically delivered raw power for heavy equipment, marine use, and those specialized trucks that just need that extra oomph. One of the biggest talking points about the 3408 is its raw torque potential. We're talking well over 2,000 pound-feet in some configurations, making it the kind of engine that can move mountains if you ask nicely, or maybe even if you don't. Originally introduced in the 1970s, the 3408 quickly gained popularity in off-highway applications like mining and construction. It was the engine you turned to when you had to haul a truly monstrous load. Naturally, some of that reputation bled into the on-road trucking world, giving it a near mythical aura. Controversy occasionally cropped up around the 3,408's weight and fuel consumption. Being a big V8 means it's not exactly sipping diesel. Some operators found it more costly to run compared to smaller, more efficient engines. In a time when margins can be razor thin, that extra fuel cost can be a deal breaker. But for those who prioritize pulling capacity over saving a few bucks at the pump, the 3,408 remains a no-brainer. It's kind of like driving a muscle car to the grocery store. Sure, it's not practical, but the power is intoxicating. The engine's longevity can be phenomenal, provided you respect its maintenance schedule. Overhauls, when they do come, can be pricey and a bit complex because of the 8-cylinder layout. The 3408 also has historically garnered a reputation for being less common in on-highway use compared to something like the inline-6 Caterpillar engines. So finding a mechanic who's an absolute whiz with 3408s might require some networking. That said, many old hands will tell you that once you've got it set up properly and you give it the right care, it's darn near bulletproof. Parts availability can be another sticking point. Over time, Caterpillar has phased out certain older engine lines, and the 3408 is no exception. While used, Riemann, or aftermarket components exist, certain specialized parts might send you on a treasure hunt. On the plus side, some folks say that the quest for rare parts is part of the fun, though others might just call it a headache. One not-so-common fact is that Caterpillar designed the 3408 not just for trucks but also for industrial generators and marine applications, meaning you could find the same block powering a tugboat as you would a haul truck in a quarry. That cross-industry usage speaks volumes about the engine's versatility. When it comes to daily driving, the 3408 might be overkill unless you're hauling extremely heavy loads or you've got a sentimental attachment to its V8 rumble. But in terms of longevity and raw horsepower, few engines can match its old-school swagger. Put simply, it's the type of engine that'll make you feel like you're driving a bulldozer down the freeway in the best possible way. 6. Cat C15. If you've spent any time in the trucking community, you've definitely heard about the Cat C15. Think of it as the refined evolution of the 3406E family. The C15 took the core strengths of the 3406 series, robust design, strong internals, and plenty of potential for high horsepower, and injected a dose of modern engineering. Released in the late 90s, this 15.2-liter engine quickly became a hit for owner-operators wanting that sweet blend of reliability and performance. The C15's power ranges widely, from the mid-400s to well over 600 horsepower in some performance-tuned versions. Torque typically starts around 1,550 pound-feet and can climb to over 1,850 pound-feet. That's a recipe for pulling heavy loads across mountainous terrain without breaking a sweat or your bank account. One big talking point is the engine's advanced electronic controls, including Caterpillar's ACERT technology, introduced to reduce emissions without sacrificing too much power. Now, ACERT was somewhat controversial when it first came out. It introduced a twin-turbo arrangement to manage airflow and emissions. Traditionalists complained it added complexity and new failure points, such as more turbo hardware, additional sensors, and the dreaded diesel particulate filter, DPF, in later iterations. On the other hand, ACERT was Caterpillar's attempt to keep up with changing environmental regulations without leaving their loyal fan base in the dust. Some owners found that once they ironed out the kinks, like potential turbocharger issues, the engine still delivered that trademark cat toughness. Servicing the C15 is usually more straightforward than tackling older engines like the 3408, mainly because the C15 is so widespread in on-highway use. Many shops know how to handle it, and parts, while not cheap, are generally easier to source than for some discontinued lines. Overhauls are still a significant investment, but it's an investment that can pay off big time if you plan on keeping your rig for the long haul. And if you're here looking for an engine that can pass 500,000 miles like it's a routine commute, the C15 is a prime candidate. An under-discussed aspect of the C15 is the role it has played in performance tuning circles. You'd think these engines would just be for hauling freight responsibly, but some folks enjoy turning them into horsepower monsters. Aftermarket tuners and specialized shops have found ways to bump power into the insane territory, though that might come with a side order of reliability risks. Still, if you're the type who wants to see how quickly you can turn diesel fuel into raw torque, the C15 welcomes you with open arms. A common complaint is that the C15 can run a bit hotter under certain conditions, especially if you're tuning it for more power or if your cooling system isn't up to snuff. Regularly inspecting your radiator and coolant is crucial. You don't want to risk a meltdown on a steep grade in the middle of nowhere. All in all, the Cat C15 is like the middle child in a family of diesel heavyweights, young enough to have some modern flair, but old enough to maintain that legendary Cat backbone. For many truckers, it strikes the perfect balance between manageable upkeep, decent fuel economy, relatively speaking, and a proven track record of longevity. That's why you'll still see it racking up miles in fleets around the country, from coast to coast. 5. Cat C16. Now let's talk about the Cat C16, the bigger sibling to the C15. While the difference might seem minor, 15.2 liters versus 15.8 liters, those extra 0.6 liters can pack a punch. Like the C15, the C16 made waves in the heavy-duty trucking scene for its durability and power potential. Think of it as the older brother who's just naturally stronger and doesn't mind showing off. Horsepower on the C16 can soar well above 600 in certain factory or modified settings, and torque can easily surpass 2,000 pound-feet. That extra displacement does wonders for those times when you're hauling a house, literally if you're in the business of oversized loads, or maybe just a particularly stubborn piece of machinery. Essentially, if you want that bit of extra muscle over the C15, but still appreciate Caterpillar's reliability, the C16 is worth a long, envious look. The controversy? Caterpillar didn't produce the C16 for nearly as long as the C15, making it somewhat rarer. Some will tell you that the C16 is essentially a unicorn. More power, arguably fewer owners messing with it. So maybe fewer half-baked modifications floating around on the used market. Others argue that it's tough to justify the jump from a C15 to a C16 when you weigh fuel costs, potential overhaul expenses, and the fact that the C15 was already a proven beast. Indeed, the C16's parts can be pricier, and you might face longer downtime if something major goes wrong and you're hunting for specific components. Another tidbit is how the C16 was often favored in certain niche industries, such as high-performance marine applications, or in trucking companies that specialized in heaviest of heavy hauls. That means that if you find a used C16, it might have led a particularly tough life. Sure, these engines are made to handle abuse, but high stress day in and day out can take a toll on internal components. Carefully evaluating service records before buying a used C16 is crucial. Don't just get starstruck by the bigger displacement. On the bright side, the C16 retains much of the C15's user-friendliness in terms of overall design. It's still an inline-six, which many mechanics appreciate for its simplicity compared to a V8 design. The electronic management system also shares similarities with the C15, so shops familiar with the ACERT or similar CAT systems can usually handle the C16 without issues. Just be aware that not all C16s use ACERT technology. Caterpillar was experimenting with different emission strategies around the time the C16 was produced. That's something to keep in mind if you're concerned about compliance or the additional complexities of a twin-turbo layout. In terms of longevity, you can fully expect the C16 to run 500,000 miles or more if well maintained. Over time, owners have reported minimal trouble with things like head gaskets and main bearings. But again, consistent maintenance and quality parts are a must. Neglecting oil changes or ignoring early warning signs from the turbo can lead to catastrophic failures that leave your rig stranded and your wallet crying for mercy. Is the C16 overkill? Possibly, but in the world of diesel engines, overkill is sometimes exactly what you need, especially if your livelihood depends on hauling the heaviest loads out there. For those who swear by the bigger is better philosophy, the Cat C16 is a holy grail of sorts. Rare, powerful, and bursting with potential for the right operator. Tier 4. Mack E7. Switching gears from Caterpillar, let's look at the Mack E7, an engine near and dear to the hearts of many who love a truck that's built like a Mack truck. The E7 is an inline-six that typically ranges from 12 liters to about 12.7 liters, depending on the specific variant. Though not as large in displacement as some of the Cat engines, the E7 holds its own in reliability and longevity. Mack introduced it in the late 1980s, and it quickly became synonymous with tough construction trucks, vocational work, and even long-haul applications. The reason folks rally behind the E7 is its straightforward design. Mack built these engines to handle punishment in every sense of the word. Whether you're hauling dirt out of a quarry or running a daily route on the interstate, the E7 is known to keep chugging along with minimal drama. Horsepower outputs typically range from 300 to around 460, and torque can reach around 1,600 pound-feet, which is usually enough to get the job done in a variety of settings. A controversial aspect of the E7 surfaced around fuel economy. Some operators felt the E7 lagged behind competitors in that department, especially when matched against more modern engines from Cummins or Detroit Diesel. However, others argue that any marginal dip in fuel economy is outweighed by the engine's durability. After all, if your truck spends less time in the shop and more time moving freight, you might end up on top financially anyway. Another hot topic is the Mack-only approach to parts and service. Mack trucks have historically used proprietary components, which can mean that if something goes wrong, you might be limited in where you can get the fix. Some owners see this as a testament to Mack's engineering. Everything is designed to work seamlessly together, while others see it as a nuisance that can lead to higher costs and potential delays in sourcing parts. But make no mistake, the E7 has proven itself over decades, racking up 500,000, 600,000, or even more miles when given proper care. Overhauls are generally straightforward compared to some high-tech engines, and many seasoned mechanics can rebuild an E7 in their sleep. The design simplicity also makes it somewhat more accessible for small fleet owners who don't have the budget for specialized diagnostic equipment. Interestingly, the E7 saw use in other platforms, including some military applications, which speaks volumes about its reliability under harsh conditions. People tend to forget that the E7 has a storied history beyond standard freight hauling. There's something deeply satisfying about an engine that feels like it's been everywhere and done everything, from city streets to battlefields. In short, the Mack E7 might not be the flashiest engine out there, but it's a tried and true workhorse that's earned its place in diesel lore. If you see a truck proudly sporting the Bulldog logo, there's a good chance an E7 has been loyally powering it through countless miles and challenges. 3. Detroit DD15. Next up is the modern face of Detroit diesel, the DD15. Debuting around 2008, this engine arrived with a lot of fanfare and a hefty dose of skepticism from those who prefer tried-and-true mechanical systems. Featuring advanced emissions controls like a diesel particulate filter and SCR technology, the DD15 was engineered from the get-go to meet ever-tightening emissions regulations without sacrificing power and torque. The result? A 14.8-liter inline-six that can produce between 400 and 560 horsepower, with torque levels hitting up to 1,850 pound-feet. One of the biggest selling points of the DD15 is its fuel efficiency. Detroit Diesel leaned heavily into technology like an asymmetrical turbocharger and advanced common rail fuel injection. This allows for precise control over injection timing, which helps the engine run cleaner and more efficiently. Fleet managers love tooting the improved MPG figures, especially when fuel costs are climbing. And let's be honest, if you're running a big fleet, those savings add up quickly. Of course, with new tech comes new controversies. Early models of the DD15 had some well-known issues with sensors, DPF clogging, and EGR cooler failures. These are typical growing pains in modern emissions-compliant engines, but they were enough to frustrate drivers and owners who were used to engines they could fix with a simple wrench and a bit of elbow grease. Some also bemoan the complexity of diagnosing a DD15 problem if you don't have the proprietary diagnostic software. This can lead to bigger shop bills, especially if you're operating away from your usual service network. On the plus side, Detroit Diesel responded to feedback over the years, refining the design and making improvements that reduced breakdowns and boosted longevity. Many second or third generation DD15 engines are now hitting that 500,000-mile mark with fewer headaches than their early counterparts. And once you get used to the advanced systems, like the multi-stage turbo and the after-treatment components, you might find that routine maintenance is still manageable with the right resources and training. Another neat facet is the integration with advanced vehicle telematics. The DD15 often comes paired with sophisticated software that can track performance, fuel usage, and even provide predictive maintenance alerts. While some old-school drivers may roll their eyes at having a computer tell them when to change their oil, there's no denying the benefits of catching small issues before they turn into major catastrophes. Despite being younger compared to the other legends on this list, the DD15 has quickly earned a reputation for reliability, assuming you respect its maintenance schedule and don't skip out on necessary procedures like DPF regeneration. It's a prime example of how the diesel industry is evolving. More tech-savvy, more emissions-conscious, but still laser-focused on delivering the power and durability that trucking demands. So if you're open to embracing modern emission systems and the occasional software update, the DD15 could be the perfect balance of efficiency, performance, and compliance. Just be ready for a bit more complexity under the hood. The days of purely mechanical simplicity might be behind us, but the promise of a 500,000-mile champion remains strong as ever. Number 2, Detroit Diesel Series 60. If there's an engine that can be called the poster child of modern diesel reliability, it's the Detroit Diesel Series 60. Introduced in 1987, it set the tone for decades of electronic diesel engines that followed. With displacements ranging from 11.1 liters up to 14 liters, the Series 60 quickly became a mainstay in the on-highway market. One of the biggest headlines about this engine was Detroit Diesel's pioneering use of electronic controls, specifically the DDEC system, which allowed for better fuel management and real-time monitoring of the engine's performance. Right out of the gate, the Series 60 gained a reputation for solid fuel economy, a big deal at a time when many diesel engines were primarily known for being rugged but not necessarily thrifty. Horsepower numbers typically sat in the 350 to 500 range, depending on the variant, and torque could climb up to about 1,650 pound-feet. Over time, Detroit Diesel introduced updates and improvements, rolling through multiple DDEC generations. Each iteration aimed at boosting reliability, meeting stricter emissions rules, and integrating more advanced diagnostic features. Still, controversies arose, particularly when emission requirements led to designs like EGR, exhaust gas recirculation systems. Early EGR components on the Series 60 sometimes caused overheating and maintenance headaches. Some owners circumvented or tampered with these systems, leading to more heated debates about environmental impact and the reliability of these add-on technologies. In fairness, most mechanical or early electronic engines face similar challenges once emissions regulations tighten. The Series 60 just had a huge user base, so its issues were in the spotlight. Despite these bumps in the road, the Series 60 was and continues to be a million-mile champion for many operators. Indeed, it's not uncommon to see older trucks with well over 1 million miles on a Series 60, often with just one major overhaul in their history. There's even a running joke that the Series 60 might outlast the truck's frame or body. Proper care, of course, is essential, and ignoring simple things like coolant checks or oil leaks can come back to bite you. Mechanics generally love the Series 60 for its straightforward architecture. While it has electronic controls, the core design is user-friendly enough that experienced techs can do a fair amount of troubleshooting by old-fashioned methods. Parts availability is another plus. Because this engine was so widespread, you can typically find everything you need, from sensors to main bearings, without going on an Indiana Jones-level quest. An underrated aspect is how the Series 60 found its way into everything from motor coaches to marine applications. That cross-platform usage is a testament to the engine's flexibility. The same core design can push a bus full of tourists through city traffic or move a boat upriver against a strong current. When you add it all up, the strong fundamentals, the proven track record, the adaptability, It's easy to see why the Detroit Diesel Series 60 is still a hot topic in any discussion about long-lived diesel engines. Even in the face of new entrants and evolving technologies, the Series 60 remains an icon of durability and efficiency. If you see one under the hood, chances are it's got plenty of life left to give. Number 1. Cummins Big Cam. Finally, we arrive at the Cummins Big Cam series, which arguably kicked off the entire modern era of high-mileage, rock-solid diesel engines. Introduced in the mid-1970s, the Big Cam is the stuff of legends among truckers who appreciate a simple, robust design that can take a serious beating and come out asking for more. This is an inline-six engine that originally came in several variations, Big Cam 1, 2, 3, 4, each refining the design in ways that boosted power, improved fuel economy, and reduced emissions. Displacement was typically 14 liters, and horsepower could range from about 300 to well over 400, with torque easily breaking the 1,200 pound-foot mark. What made the Big Cam, well, big? Cummins employed larger camshaft profiles and improved airflow to maximize combustion efficiency. At the time, that was a bold move, but it paid off in spades. The Big Cam quickly became known for having an excellent balance of power, simplicity, and fuel economy for its era. Plus, if you're an old-school mechanic who likes adjusting injectors and overheads the vintage way, the Big Cam was a dream come true. It was mechanical enough to let you feel truly in control of the engine's performance, but modern enough, for the time, to keep pace with the industry. Of course, no engine is perfect, and the Big Cam had its quirks. Oil leaks around the accessory drive, and the occasional camshaft wear issue popped up in some variants. Still, these issues were relatively easy to fix, and once addressed, you could keep the Big Cam humming along for hundreds of thousands of miles. Where the Big Cam really shines is in its ability to be rebuilt multiple times without losing reliability. Old-timers will share stories of Big Cams that were torn down, rebuilt, and then went on to deliver another 500,000 miles like it was no big deal. Parts availability, even all these decades later, is fairly good because of the massive install base and the dedicated fan community that keeps the legend alive. There's also a robust aftermarket offering performance and replacement parts, so you're never left out in the cold if something does go wrong. One of the more controversial points about the Big Cam is emissions. It was developed in an era when regulations were just beginning to tighten. Cummins made incremental changes, like the introduction of low-flow cooling or revised aftercoolers, to meet new rules, but compared to a modern emissions-compliant engine, the Big Cam is dirtier. That's led some to call it outdated or environmentally unfriendly. Others argue that its longevity and ease of maintenance make it more sustainable in certain respects. After all, building a new engine requires raw materials and energy, so there's an argument that keeping a well-maintained older engine running might be a greener choice if the total carbon footprint is measured over time. Another lesser-known fact is how the Big Cam was a foundational stepping stone to the infamous Cummins N14, which replaced it and carried forward many of the same design principles: robust blocks, easy service, and consistent power. You might say the Big Cam walked so the N14 could run, or roar, as the case may be. In the end, the Cummins Big Cam's legendary status is well-earned. It symbolizes an era of diesel engineering that prized mechanical simplicity and field serviceability. For many drivers, hearing the distinctive rumble of a Big Cam is like music, and those who swear by it do so because it's proven itself time and time again across millions of miles of open road. If longevity is your #1 priority, you really can't go wrong with the engine that arguably started the trend of 500,000-mile champions in the first place. Thanks for hanging out and geeking over these diesel heavyweights. If this rundown made you want to pop a hood or two, consider subscribing to the channel for more deep dives into trucking history, engine tech, and all things diesel. Share your own engine war stories in the comments, and let's keep this conversation rolling down the highway. Appreciate you watching and learning about these 500,000-plus mile heroes. Jokes aside, these engines aren't just metal and bolts. They're the beating hearts of entire industries. If you enjoyed this tour of legendary diesels, give this video a thumbs up, subscribe, and hit the bell so you won't miss our next deep dive. And if you're already planning your next engine build, remember, knowledge is power, torque is better, and a great engine can last forever. Safe travels.